As we always do, we follow the breaking news, and we have a big one today. Senator Mitch McConnell says he is going to step down from his post at Senate Republican leader in November.
That's right. Senator McConnell spoke about this seismic decision on the Senate floor moments ago.
So I stand before you today, Mr. President, and my colleagues, to say this will be my last term as Republican leader of the Senate. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. However, I'll complete my job my colleagues have given me until we select a new leader in November and they take the helm next January.
The Senate Minority Leader went on to say he has plenty of gas in the tank and said he's confident the GOP conference will choose a replacement to take the country forward.
CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion is there on Capitol Hill for us. Nikole, some breaking news. We were talking with you, obviously, when the news first came down. What jumped out at you from the Minority Leader's remarks?
Well, I think if anything, he realized his time is due, and even though he said he still has gas left in his tank, he also noted that he recently turned 82 and that he feels that it is now the time for him to step down, that he has made that decision, because certainly when we look at a lot of leaders here in the Senate, some of whom are octogenarians, just like the leader, there has kind of been this pervasive question about age and when is a good time to step down, some making that decision to continue serving, as we saw in the case of the late Dianne Feinstein, up until her death. But in this instance, you have a leader, McConnell, saying, look, I've had a good run. It's time for a new generation of leaders, and kind of making that move to pass the torch to a younger generation of leadership, which again is part of a broader debate that we are even seeing now in presidential politics as well. And as we know, for any politician and any person, it is their decision to make and their decision alone. But certainly, as you heard from the leader there, he was laying out his reasoning for why he felt that this was a good time for him to step down. Still in awe, though, of the U.S. Capitol, as he said that he still gets excited every time he comes into this building, every time he steps onto the floor, and that he does intend to fulfill his duty to serve out the rest of his term. He said there are still a lot of pressing issues at hand, and also to fulfill the duties of his constituents in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
And Nikole, I have to say, I'm in awe at the remark he made about when he was elected to the Senate in 1984. That means he's been there all or most of my lifetime. And his impact on the American legal landscape is difficult to measure because it is so immense, particularly when you consider his impact on who now sits on the Supreme Court and their consequential decisions. What, in your view, stands out as some of his most impactful decisions?
Well, certainly he made history when he was first elected, was one of the first Republicans to win statewide in Kentucky in some 20 years when he was elected back in 1984. And he quickly did move up in the ranks in the U.S. Senate. But obviously, probably that most pivotal part of his tenure was this time where he served during kind of in the interim between the Obama administrations and the Trump administrations, where you had that very critical opening on the Supreme Court, and then President Barack Obama nominated Merrick Garland, who is now the Attorney General, but at the time was a judge. And in effect, McConnell blocked that nomination from going forward. And that really was to the ire of many Democrats, some of whom are still, potentially upset about that move. And then when we saw former President Trump win in 2016, not only was the former president able to fill that vacancy with Neil Gorsuch, but then was able to add two more conservative justices to the bench in Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. And, if you'll remember with some of those proceedings, particularly Amy Coney Barrett, I mean, they were very swift, took place in, I think her nomination took place in less than a month from the time that she was nominated to the confirmation hearings. And that in large part was due not only to the Judiciary Committee, but also also to leaders like McConnell, who kind of cleared that path, enabling these nominations to move forward very swiftly. Yeah. So that being said, it certainly is one of the cornerstones of his legacy here on Capitol Hill, among many things.
Right, and it's one that he is one of the ones that he's most proud of. He has said that before. It's also on his Senate bio as the first real accomplishment specifically that he celebrates. But real quick, Nikole, we saw Susan Collins, the senator from Maine, sitting behind him smiling. Any word as to who may succeed Mitch McConnell?
Well, the answer is the three Johns, which has kind of been, what has been whispered here in the halls of Congress over these last several months and to a certain extent last several years. And if you're wondering who those three Johns may be, I'm referencing John Cornyn of Texas, John Barrasso of Wyoming, who is currently the Senate GOP conference chairman, and John Thune, who is the Senate GOP whip. All of them have obviously been in positions of Senate leadership, and they, at this point in time, seem to be the potential candidates to possibly succeed Leader McConnell. And so we have seen, while many of them have tried to stay on the same page as the leader and to show him deference and respect, we do know that there have been conversations about who may eventually succeed the leader, and certainly all of these three contenders have been trying to build support among the conference, albeit very quietly.
Yeah, certainly one of the most consequential positions in all of the country. Nikole Killion, thank you.
Thank you, Nikole.